I know. Yeah. No. Right. I mean, we had. Didn't we have like a kind of a Chuck is pissy zone? Uh, I think that was last week, as I recall. And but I think Jan's taking it hard to the hoop right now, man. Um, yeah. Thanks, Wyatt. I feel that's probably true in more ways than one, but okay. So I'm going pop over to. I appear to have things streaming on YouTube. Um, Man, okay. The thing is, if I don't do this thing right, I won't have any of your audio when we get to questions and stuff. Okay, I'm almost there, baby. Now this could be worse because this could be like an old Windows machine, and we could probably do an episode of The Office while we wait for that thing to boot. Okay, hang on a second. All right. I just wanted to see. Okay, can I just get just anybody on the students? Just give me a little love here on the audio. Okay, hang on a second. I just want to see if it's coming through YouTube. In which case, we're green light go. All right. I just wanted to see. Okay, can I just get just anybody on the students? Just give me a little love here on the audio. I just want to see if it's coming through YouTube, in which case we're green. So you guys can hear it on YouTube? Like student voices on YouTube. There you go. All right. I just wanted to see, okay, can I just get, just... Yeah, everybody can hear the... Anybody on the students, just give me a little love here on the audio. Okay, I'm going one more try here on one thing. Yeah, because I'm not getting any of the student voices on that, and I know why. And this is the part, this is the key. I'm going to try to just change the audio, and if not, we're just going to roll without it, because we've already been piddling around too much. But, okay. Question is, right now, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
And I can hear you. And believe it or not, the settings are the same. Okay, but I've got you guys. That means it's going to show up on YouTube. I just want to see if it's okay. On YouTube. Yeah, because I'm not getting any of the student voices on that. Okay, hold on real quick. We'll have audio check, and I'll be done with that. And this is the part. This is the key. I'm going to try to just change the audio, and if not, we're just going to roll without it, because we've already been piddling around too much. But okay. Question is, right now, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We're green light on YouTube. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. I got streaming on Discord. All right, Jan. Hey, Jan.
Hey.
So, okay, let's rock and roll. Let's do this thing. So we've got... So, man, I'm so sorry. I apologize. That's just pitiful. What I'm going to do is I can do this a couple ways. Jan, you've got camera on somewhere?
I can. Here, give me just
Yeah,
a
give us
second.
some. Let's see your beautiful face. And then they can see that that we're kind of like brothers from maybe the same mother. It's possible.
So it's saying that it won't do video chat with more than 25.
Yeah, but the others aren't video sharing, are you?
I know, it's kind of weird.
What in the heck, man? I'm doing mine. I'm doing my share. We'll just do like screen share. No, does that work? Screen share.
Let me do the screen
You
share.
could pull up the camera app and then do screen share.
Yeah. If you pull up a
It'll be
camera app, you can share.
super high on latency,
That'll be
though.
bad,
It's
though.
gonna be desynced a bit.
Video chat not available for more than 25 users. Yeah, but that doesn't even... All I need...
The life of Dr. K.
You guys could hop on a Zoom call.
We could go to MS Teams. We could go to a Zoom call, but here's the problem. We may have to just do this audio and just not see your beautiful face, Jan. Jan looks like me, only more handsome without the beard. And that's, how am I doing, Jan? That's not too far off, right? I'll tell you what. So let's just stay voice. And then what I'll do is I'll go, while we're talking, I've got my video, my screen share, right? Oh no, I see what you're saying. What do you think, Jan? Should we go Zoom call? And then we don't worry about the Zoom audio because the audio is coming through Discord. And then I can put the screen on my big screen, which will be part of what gets shared, and in fact is what's getting streamed. Boom. What do you think, Jan? Did I lose you? Jan, you there? Can I hear you guys? I can still hear. Can I get a voice from a student, like a hello?
Hello?
Okay, we're green light. All right, Jan, do I have you? Yeah, no, so here's the deal. We jump either on Google Hangouts or Zoom just for some video. I throw the video on my screen, which is part of my stream, into the Discord chat. But I don't have Jan right now. Jan, I don't hear you. If you're talking, I don't hear you. Paging Mr. Newman. Mr. Newman to the white paging telephone.
I saw him muting and unmuting his mic.
You know, Jan's not real good with technology. He's more of a marketing guy. Sorry, I thought if I taunted him, he might materialize. Amazing. Amazing. Well, hang on.
Sometimes Discord can be kind of finicky. You have to task manager end it and then restart it.
Yeah. Let's see. What's the best play? So, hey, Jan, paging Jan Newman. Just a second. Yeah. So what I'm thinking is exactly what Wayne said. What if I can get? Problem is I got no audio right now from Jan at all. So I've got no communication. Okay, you can hear me. So Jan, let's do this, man. So can you like just kill Discord and restart it, Jan? It'll automatically reconnect you into the call because I got no audio coming from you. But somebody needs to mute that before they keep yelling at their kid or whatever's going on.
What happened?
Somebody want to mute themselves?
Tyler S. Maybe? Looks like coming from him.
Who is it?
Yeah, there you go. He muted.
Okay, she muted. Okay, all right. Hey, all good, man. Yeah, we just didn't. It was starting to sound like a little domestic dispute, and I don't want to hear it. None of us want to hear it. Not that we don't love you.
From someone too. You have to go back to the. They can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Jan! Yes, we can hear you now. Okay, so here's what we do. Yeah, we can hear. You can hear us now, right?
Noise, which that's.
Jan, man, you can hear. Can you hear me, Jan?
Speaking, so they're hearing you.
Chuck, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, he can.
Okay.
But apparently you can't hear me. Man. Man, oh man, come on. Okay, tell you what. So Jan, you're talking though, right? And can everybody hear Jan say something? And can everybody hear
I'm
him?
not sure what to do here, Dr. Chuck, but I went back out and came back in thinking that might fix that.
Yeah. Did you like kill?
Like it did.
Let me see.
I can hear you now, Chuck.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Anyway, I can definitely hear you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well-
All of a sudden I hear you, and I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Okay. So, hang on a second. Man, hang on just a second. Okay. All right. Okay. So Jan, man, I think everybody can hear Jan, and so why don't we just rock and roll? Let me see. So it's we're kind of in a weird zone, man. Where Jan, I don't know who can hear who. You guys can hear both of us. I can hear everybody, and Jan can't hear me.
I just can't hear anybody else.
Oh, you can't hear anybody. Okay,
I don't think anyone else is talking. Can you hear me, Mr. Jan?
Mr. Jan.
I don't know what to call him, man. Leave me alone.
That's fine.
Yeah, no. So it sounds like he can't hear the rest of us.
We could end up posting questions in the general when it
That's
comes
true.
time.
That's true.
Um,
That's true.
And he can just keep an eye on it.
All right.
Here, I just heard that guy talk.
All right. That's
Oh,
because
hello.
Wyatt has like special powers.
I
He's
got that booming voice. It just carries. You probably hear my voice all the way to your place right now.
exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So Jan, so you can't, but maybe you can't hear me. Okay. So I'm actually texting out of band. Okay, you can hear me now. I think your machine is healing, Jan. Okay, let's do this thing. I think we should do it while we appear to maybe have a window. Let's say. Okay, everybody, I want to just introduce you to my really good friend, Jan Newman. Jan is the man, and here I want to just give you like a minute, 2 minutes less about why the topic today is entrepreneurship, startup land. To me, it's about startups. And Jan, you can still hear me?
Yes.
A miracle. It's a miracle. No, I look at it this way. There are people that, they go into business, they try a thing, they get lucky. You can be dumber than a board and get lucky once and make a crap ton of money. And that's like literally true. And what's difficult is to do something and then to do it again and then to do it again. And it's not because you know what's going on, like, oh, I already know how to do that. Because the reality is, so Jan, we talk about the orders of ignorance, had a long discussion about it, but it's about not being afraid to just not know crap, to just roll in, You don't know anything. You know, I mean, in practice, you got a lot of background experience and ideas and whatever, but it's really about figuring stuff out as you go. The next idea hits you. The next, you know, how do you navigate that? And when you figure that out, it looks like repeat success. And so Jan's one of those people in my, you know, career and experience that impresses on a bunch of levels, but from a success perspective, you know, and hopefully Jan, you'll tell us, you know, tell him all about some of your background experiences, whatever. But to do a thing and then to do another thing and be successful, do another thing, and they're kind of different, and they're evolving. That's not accidental, and that reflects a certain kind of understanding of what it means to live in startup land. That's the bottom line. So that's kind of my intro. Jan did undergrad CS in French, computer science and French, man after my own heart, and been around the block a bazillion years and done a bunch of stuff and rang the bell on Wall Street. Yeah, doof. Yeah, doof. How do you ring the freaking bell on Wall Street? Hopefully you tell them about that. And we met at Novell long time ago when we were both really young and really dumb, but doing this cool thing called Novell back then, which was a very hot thing. So anyway, Jan, you want to rock and roll? And it's all yours. We go till 6:45 ostensibly, and I don't think anyone's going to care if we run a little bit late. They got nothing to get to.
You want to do questions? You want stuff coming live just any time, or do you want to wait to the end? What do you want to do?
I'd say take at least a stretch and maybe get a few stories out. But this is a great group, and you know they can also drop, you know, questions into the chat, into the general chat. You know, and that's not a bad
I'm trying
spot.
to see where that's at. Is that
So on your Discord over on the left side, you got this. There's like, it says voice channels, right? Above that is text channels, and one of those is general. And it's just, yeah, so you just click on general, and then you'll be able to watch the text kind of roll by. But I think there's a handful of I know there's some stories you probably need to tell to you know, take off. But you can do both. You can, if you click on the text channel, it doesn't take you out of the voice call.
all right? So,
All right, man, go for it.
nice. Yeah. Can you okay, Chuck? Just one last check.
I heard you, Jan.
So, in 1981, I decided I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for a living. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I ran into an old friend of mine on BYU campus, and I said, "Hey, what are you looking at? What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I hear this personal computing thing is going to be really big. You ought to look into that." And dove in. I just got involved in computer science. I really hadn't done much math or anything like that. 1981 is when the first personal computer, IBM personal computer, shipped. So the IBM PC had 2 whopping floppy drives. And eventually got a hard drive. And so we got to see some of this crazy stuff happen. We were programming PDP-11s with an 8-inch floppy to put our programs on. And some were doing even the computer cards where you'd program these cards and run them through a COBOL-based machine, mainframe, and load your program in that way. So it was just early days of personal computing for sure. And so I got involved in the CS program there. And while I was going to school, there was a little company called Novell that had started. WordPerfect had just barely started. So you had these 2 big juggernaut companies in Utah County that were taking off, really based on the IBM PC. And there was a guy by the name of Ray Norda who had done a lot. He had been at GE for quite a while, and then he started just kind of down in Silicon Valley working with companies, kind of turn around. He called himself an itinerant president, where he'd kind of fly in, fix stuff, sell the company, or make some money and move on to the next one. Well, there were some people here in Utah that heard about him, and Ray was originally from Utah, so they reached out to Ray, and he looked at and they had a bunch of stuff, had some disk drives and some stuff, but he really liked what they had. They had a network operating system that he really thought could be interesting in this PC space. There really wasn't any networking going on at all. You would basically do the snail mail with a floppy in your hand and go from computer to transfer files. So the whole thought was, could you create a little local area network that you could do file and print sharing? And Novell just took that thing by storm. And I got there in 1986. It started in '83. And I remember them announcing over the intercom that we did $50 million in a core. Like, man, this thing is $50 million back then to me was like king's ransom. But the thing just blew up really fast and hard. And once that happens, everybody wants to come into the space. WordPerfect was blowing up because everybody, I mean, they really dominated that space. Microsoft, we were running on DOS of all things. I don't know if any of you guys have even heard of that before. We called it Disk Operating System. And then Windows comes out not too long after that. And so you're trying to adapt all these operating systems. We had a network operating system. They own the client piece. WordPerfect's doing battle with Microsoft. Lotus is doing battle with Microsoft. Borland, they were doing compilers, but they had a little spreadsheet too, and they were doing battle with Microsoft. So we could tell those guys had huge resources, and they kind of controlled what was happening on the desktop, and they wanted to get into the network side as well, on the server side. So they created LAN Manager, and they were competing with us, and it was just crazy, and everybody was trying to find ways to get one more bit per second of the wire. I mean, it was that crazy. It was all about performance and how much you could cram across the local area network as fast as you could. And so that was the environment that Chuck and I grew up in. Novell, it was a rocket ride. It was growing so fast, and we were acquiring companies and building out new technologies and looking for ways that we could interoperate with old technologies, fighting off Microsoft, fighting off everybody that came into the space, and we usually would beat them. And so we worked really hard at that. And Ray had this vision of, well, we're going to need to get some stuff on the desktop. So it was, hey, let's do a three-way merger between us and Borland and Lotus and WordPerfect. And that kind of fell apart. And then we eventually bought WordPerfect. And it just didn't work that well. He also had a vision of getting Unix as a server operating system. And here's one place where we kind of messed up is, we had a network operating system where we owned the land, but Ray really saw that this was going to go broader and we're going to have to go to these wider area networks. And he just felt like having Unix on the back end was going to be really critical. Well, there was some kind of not invented here syndrome at Novell, and they were just like, why would we ever use that? It's slow, it's clunky, TCP/IP is awful. IPX is super fast, but it's super chatty, so it doesn't really work in a long haul network. And Microsoft had already adopted TCP/IP, even though it was slower. They could kind of see that having a standardized protocol was going to be where it was at as far as networking goes. And you look at it now, and just TCP/IP is it. I mean, that's where all the networking now. And I think if Novell had kind of grabbed onto that and weren't so focused just on the local area networks, Novell would have been in a different place. In fact, we had the early trappings of a web browser in 1994, and we were doing stuff with Netscape at the time. In fact, a good friend of mine just sent me an email. He does a little column, and he kind of went back and looked at all the things that happened in that particular time frame. And there was Netscape that owned the browser market. We were in the network operating system market. Microsoft was coming on with Windows, and IBM was coming in with OS2. I mean, it was so fractured and fragmented. It was super hard to figure out where you were going to go next. But that's kind of where we learned.
In fact, hey, Jan, can I just interject? I just wanted to interject that it's one of the crazy things to think about that there was I can't remember the stat. It was something like 70 or 80%, back when we were kind of in our prime there, something like 80% of all network packets in the world were IPX SPX, which was Novell's protocol. Right. This is pre-web explosion, and at some level you could say the fact that we kind of missed that is staggering. especially when you just think about startups and how do you know what you know and how do you make the right decision in real time compared to you can look back and say everybody was an idiot or everybody was a genius, but when you're in the middle of it, it's not obvious.
I mean, it's really kind of comes down to Clayton Christensen's innovator's dilemma, right? Are you willing to eat your young, or willing to put up IPX and SPX on the altar and let it get sacrificed to a slower, clunkier protocol, but be able to take the future and really do something with it? That's where, and I think Ray had that vision. He had the vision of, hey, we got to have presence on the desktop because nobody knows what's going on in the back end. And then he had the thought about Unix. I mean, if you look at most operating systems now on the back end or even on the desktop, it's all about their Unix-like from back in the day. And that was really where things were going. Ray had a pretty good vision there, but it was hard to get people off of the NetWare bandwagon and our super high performance protocol. There was nothing like it. Nobody could compete with it. So that was a real challenging time. And then, and it just, Microsoft just subsumed the network piece and made it irrelevant for everybody other than just, hey, we're going to standardize on TCP/IP. And then that really put a hole in Novell's boat, and water came in pretty hard. So I left Novell in 1996, and Ray had left 2 years before, and he'd had some health problems. And so one day I got a call from him when I was at my office at Novell, and he said, "Hey Newman, why don't you start a company, and I'll fund it." Well, like what? I don't care. Just come up with an idea for a company, and I'll fund it. I'm like, never done anything, and I was so dumb and naive. I just thought, everybody starts a company and it just works. Well, that doesn't happen. Most companies fail within the first couple of years, right? And it's difficult. And so we were pretty naive, but we kind of built a test business inside of Novell where we validated a lot of third-party technology as well as Novell technology. And we just decided, let's take that model and put it on the outside, and let's see if we can build a business around that, which we did. And it was 1996. And things were taking off with the internet, and there was money and excitement, and the dot-com bubble was going strong, and there was just, people were throwing money at everything. So we got into that business, ramped it up, built some technology to help us automate the process of deploying software to computers. And back in the day, and Chuck will attest to this, every PC had if it wasn't a 5 1/4 inch floppy, a 3.5 inch disk had about a megabyte of storage on it. And then eventually they started putting CDs on it. And that was it. And so being able to install software was a nightmare. I mean, I remember there's a time you would buy a new package and you had 54 5 1/4 inch floppies that you had to shove in one at a time to install the operating system.
Yep.
That's how awful it was. But so we came up with an idea of, well, let's create an image of a disk, and then let's shoot that disk in a broadcast mode over to computers in the network, and you could install Windows and all the apps in a matter of 10 minutes. And we developed that technology, and that actually became the basis of how we were able to really quickly install custom configurations on hundreds of computers at a time. People could come in, test in that configuration, and then we could wipe them and install another one in really quickly. And that's what we built our business on. And within 2 years, we had people wanting to buy us. Ray Norda put $2.5 million in that business on a handshake. And in 2 years, we sold it for $80 million. And that was our first success. And I remember when the person came to buy us, we had our calculators out. We were calculating how much money we were going to make. And Ray Norda, who's this billionaire guy, he was just laughing at us. He says, "Look at you guys calculating how much money you're going to make." Pretty funny when I think back about it, because we were making a few $1 million, but anyway, that was.
And Jan, you were like in your mid-30s, right? Mid to late 30s. At that point.
When we started Key Labs, and so I was probably 38 when we sold.
Okay.
And the smart thing we did there, guys, is we at the time we had actually started this technology we built to do this rapid installation of software. I looked at it one day, I'm like, man, there's got to be other people that'd be willing to pay us a lot of money to use this, because there are people that had labs like ours all over the industry. There were classrooms that had to be set up to do training and stuff. So we started selling our technology to companies. And one day we had Intel come in and they said, hey, we'd like to put this in every one of our labs at Intel. And I said, how much? And I go, you'd buy it? And they go, yeah, we'd pay you money. I'm like, real money. You'd write us a check for this. We go, they said, yeah. I was like, okay. They said, how much would it be for a site license? I said, $50,000. And they said, done. I'm like going, dang, I should have said 100. So that was our first start with the software. But as we got going, we started generating more revenue on the software side than our testing services business. So we had the foresight to create another company. We went to Ray and said, hey, would you give us another $4 million? We think we've got something here. So we put another $4 million into this new business called Altiris, which became a very large, publicly traded for business. We were going to go public in December of 2001. And you all know what happened September 11th of 2001. That blew our deal clear out of the water.
Right.
We were the first tech IPO that came out in 2002, in May of 2002. We went public the same day as Netflix for a business called Altiris. We came out about $20 a share or $10 a share and went to about $3 a share overnight. And then it went back up and it just grew and grew and grew. We took that business from zero in revenue to about 350 million in revenue in about 7 years. And you may ask yourself, well, how in the world did you get to that level of revenue in that short period of time? Because that's even in today's market, that's hard to do. And the way we did it was we had connections into the old Compact Computer Corporation. We'd done a lot of work with them back in the day at Nobel. And we went back to those guys and we started telling them about this. And one day I get a call from their PC division marketing vice president, said, hey, we'd like to have you come out to PC Expo and show us your stuff. And so I bundled all this stuff up and went out there. And at the time, Compaq owned 30% of the PC desktop market. So that was a big deal. We had IBM and some other guys, and Dell was coming on strong. But so I went out there and I showed them our stuff. And at the end of the meeting, the guy says, we want to put this on every computer we ship. Whoa, dang, this could be big. And so we got that going. We got a license to install our client on every PC that Compaq shipped. And then allowed us to do is then we would have an automatically ready to go endpoint with Compaq to be able to manage your software on, do inventory on, and all that kind of stuff. And that was our ticket to the moon. A year after that, Dell wanted the same deal, and we signed them up, got the same deal. We were doing 100 million in revenue with those guys, and IBM wanted it, and then Fujitsu, Siemens, everybody that owned a PC wanted to have the Altiris software on it. And so what you get from that, guys, is you get leverage. You basically leverage the balance sheet of somebody a lot bigger than you. And that gave us the ability to scale. When you go to Wall Street with those guys in your hip pocket, I mean, our stock took off. Now, one of the challenges and one of the things you'll find in business, and one of the reasons you always bet on the guys in the business and not the business itself, the technology or anything else, is your business is gonna morph several times, and the market's gonna change out from under you several times before you sell the company or you go public or whatever, or even while you're public. And that happened to us. I'll never forget when I got a call from HP. Had eventually bought a computer corporation, so now we're dealing with even a bigger organization. Well, we get a call from them one day, and we're doing 90 to 100 million revenue with these guys, and they go, tomorrow we're going to announce that we're buying your competitor. I fainted. They're doing about a third of our revenue, and a rotten day, and our dropped 30% overnight when they announced. But we just said we're not giving in, and so we kept working hard. Their sales guys did not like the new technology; they loved ours. We kept working with the field. We kept hustling. We didn't take no for an answer, And within a year, they canned this other stuff and they were back to us doing 100 million revenue. So that's just one of the things you just never say never. I mean, there's always a way to get a deal done, and you just don't give. I mean, some people would have probably just rolled up and their ball and gone home, but we just said, we're not giving up that easy. We told them, we said, we're not going to give up, guys. So just plan on us being in your grill for a while. And we got to the point where we were meeting with their executives. We used to meet quarterly with Michael Dell and Kevin Rollins. And the other thing that we used to do with this customer is we'd go in there and they'd say, hey, thanks for what you've done here. You guys have done some amazing stuff. And we'd always, we're selling the software, and they said, we don't care how much software you're selling. We want to know how much you're influencing our hardware sales. So Michael Dell would just say, what are you doing? And we'd show him we were influencing several $1 billion in hardware sales. That got his attention. So we'd meet with him quarterly. We'd just say, what's your next big initiative? And he'd tell us. And then we would go back with our teams, build things, help Michael Dell meet his objectives, and then work with his teams internally to make it happen. And we became their favorite software vendor. There would be people come to them all the time and say, how do you work with your field? And they said, we don't know. Talk to the Altiris guy. Because we were just killing it with these guys, with them and HP and IBM and everybody else. So that's really the two big ones going. We did the IPO there. We went on NASDAQ, and it's pretty underwhelming. You go in a little room and there's a button there and you push it and the thing comes up on Times Square, and that's about it. I'll tell you about our other one on the New York Stock Exchange, which was a lot cooler. But anyway, that's kind of just generally how we got going. And I would tell you this, one of the things that is an underlying principle here that you need to understand is you never build products for product's sake or technology for technology's sake. If you desire to start a company, you got to find an unmet customer need, a pain point, solve that pain point, and you'll make a lot of money. So another real quick story about a company. They came to us and they said, listen, we're having a hard time getting people to move from our old computers to our new ones. They really like their old one. It's got all their files. It's got their settings. They go to the new one. They're just starting over. And they said, could you guys come up with some way to kind of transfer all that data over really easily? Well, we went back and brainstormed. We came up with a thing called PC transplant, where you basically transplant all the settings and data from your previous computer. And when you turned on your new one, it looked exactly like your old. Now, you don't have to, a lot of you guys haven't never worked with the Windows registry and what it was like back in the day. It was awful. The worst thing ever. But the other thing is where there's mystery, there's margin. If you find something really hard to do, nobody else wants to do, and you figure it out, you're going to make a ton of money. So that's what we did. And we went back to Compaq and said, let us show you what we've done. They about fell over, and we sold millions of dollars of that. It was little tools, all it was. We sold millions of dollars of it. And there's a perfect example of us not going and figuring something out on our own, but going to them and saying, what's your biggest problem? What's an issue? What's a concern? And then you build technology to meet that thing. And if there's a big, broad market out there, everybody's going to want it. And you'll have a... So let's pause there, Chuck, and just see if there's any conversation anybody wants to have around that.
Yeah, anybody dive in if you have, questions or things nagging at you.
Yeah, quick question. Going along with what you were talking about finding a pain point. I guess it seems like it would be a little bit more difficult for people in our situation, undergraduates or getting close to graduate from college, to find those sorts of opportunities. What would you recommend as a good path forward in doing that?
People, right? You're going to see something. You're going to be in a restaurant. You're going to be at a hospital. You're going to be at a clinic. You're going to be at an automotive shop. You're going to be, and you're looking at it and like, that's ridiculous the way you guys do that. Thing is, you're going to take a job usually at a bigger company for a period of time, and you're going to be in there and you're going to see something that interacting with some of the customers, that there's something that this company that you're in is not going to do, but you see the opportunity to build a piece of technology out that could solve a problem that the company isn't solving. And you want to be careful that you're not misusing your, misusing your trade secrets. But it's you're out and you're among people and you're among your buddies and you're thinking about stuff and you're like, man, I experienced this thing the other day and it just was the most ridiculous thing. If they automated that, it would be amazing. And that's what you see. And you'll just get thrown into situations like that. Take some notes, think about it, and I'll just tell you, there's somebody in a garage, somewhere else thinking about the same thing. So once you've kind of nailed down the idea, the next thing is you go, how big is the market? Because if you go into a market that's worth 50 million and you get 3 to 5% of that, it's not very big. Try and find a market that's a $500 million to $1 billion in size, because you're going to probably get 3 to 5% of that market. And then that becomes pretty interesting, especially if you do something on a subscription basis or SaaS model. You can get 7x revenue on that thing, and all of a sudden, on a $50 million business, you have a $500 million company on your hands. Does that help?
Yeah, those are some great points. Thanks.
Anybody else? What do you got?
I have a question. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay. What would be your advice for starting a business from zero? Like, I've got a couple $100 in my pockets to buy groceries, and I don't know anybody. What would be your first start advice to kind of get in that world and kind of get going?
I think there's different ways to be an entrepreneur, right? There's the path of, I own a home, I'm going to mortgage it, I'm going to max out 30 credit cards. I'm not that kind of guy. I think what you find is you find a way that you can get some wiggle room. That means you're working for somebody, and you got some wiggle room to think about some things. Somebody's covering your sleeping indoors and eating food. That's always a good thing, a good way to start. And you get a little bit of wiggle room, and then you start thinking about an opportunity. And it's usually best if you're kind of in that environment. If you guys are programmers, and I'll tell you, if you look at most of the companies in Utah that have been started, they've been started by technology guys. I'll think back at most of the ones you know too, Chuck. They were all technology guys.
Yep.
That's where they. And then as you expand, you bring in some other people, some marketing, sales, whatever.
Well, and Jan, I just want to interject. I just want to interject for these guys. If you've got that kind of entrepreneurial bent, you really have a huge advantage, because and I'm sure you do as well, Jan. And you've got Sage Creek Partners, where you guys are dealing and consulting with startups and stuff. There's a lot of people out there that I get calls all the time, and it's like, any programmers, and you're like, okay, yes and no, right? I mean, there's like a sigmoid curve. If you're really competent, you're way the heck up here, and then it tails real fast, and then this is where a lot of the undergrads are. No offense, everybody, right? But you know what I mean? As soon as you get just a little competent, your market value shoots up and you jump to this other level, right? But you have the ability to go, I can putz away on this thing on my weekend and get a proto up, and these other folks that just have an idea but they have no tech savvy at all, they don't even know really how to start, and you're right, and they're going to pay out the nose just for protos and stuff. Would you agree with that, Jan? That being a CS type, you just write it. You just start building it. Build the app. If you build it, they will come, right?
That's a good way to think about it. And you might get, if you're in these circles, you're hanging out in these circles where there's a lot of smart people, and somebody comes up with an idea and you like it, and they say, hey, I need a programmer guy. Would you kind of be our CTO dude? And you dive in and just make sure you get a chunk of equity when you do it. But that's an angle right there. You kind of find some smart people that you like to be around. Heavens forbid, don't go around people that are jerks, because life's too short to work with awful people.
That's true.
Find some great people you want to work with, and post with them, and away you go. But I like what Chuck said, is look for an opportunity. Think of some stuff, be thinking all the time, and vet it with some other people. Ping Chuck, ping me, some other guys. Hey, I got this idea. What do you think? I've heard a lot of really bad ideas, And I'll tell people when I think it's a bad idea. And I've seen some really bad ideas that ended up being really good.
Right.
And
One other thing too, Jan, about, when I'm saying like go ahead and fire it up, recognize also that the software skills, we have this kind of macho ethic that's like, well, those other people can't be that smart because if they were smarter, they'd have been CS majors. It is just not true, right? You need great marketing people, great sales people, great finance people. You need great people. And you show me a company with like 5 engineers that were all buddies in college, I will show you a doomed company right out of the gate. Because there's not enough diversity of skill set. And you've got to respect all those other things that are huge. The ability to sell yourself, to get investors, to do all those other features, business relationships and stuff that we joke, we're like, that's the dark side. But that's really dumb because you need all that stuff. And frankly, on average, we're not good at it. Speaking collectively of computer science, as majors, we're not generally good at that stuff.
That was actually going to be my next question, was as starting, generally an idea starts with a small group of people that meet under some sort of common scenario, whether it be programming class, marketing class, just a group of friends trying to make something for themselves. So how do you convince someone to put their efforts, for example, I want to be a software engineer. How the heck would I convince someone to waste their time with me or invest their time when they could be doing something else and getting bigger bucks, such as a marketing expert? I can't market or sales pitch worth crap. So how would you get that diversity in there, I guess is my question.
But they're a marketing guy, and they're out there. If you go to the business school, they do this huge thing at BYU, right? It's this Center for Entrepreneurship, and they come up with these ideas. And I watch the business guys; they're always grabbing the CS guys and saying, "Hey, can you help me build this thing?" But you always just look for people that want a bigger, better deal, and they may be working same thing. They like living indoors and eating food, which is nice, but they're also looking, there's this magical thing about starting your own company. And it's the one thing you have to understand, it's super hard, it's a lot of work, and the potential for failure is pretty high. But on the other side of it, there's really some amazing things that you're going to learn. And you know what? The other thing is if you get a really good marketing guy, you're going to learn how to be a really good marketing guy. It's easier to learn to be a marketing guy than to be a CS guy, I'm just telling you.
I think that's true. And that's no knock on marketing. But the reality is if you don't have the background to build technology, you kind of have to double back to the start and go take CS 1400, learn a little Python, and you're really doomed. But you can, and I'm not trying to play the we're all smarter thing, but I do think it's easier to do some marketing than it is to build some software product. If you know what I mean? If you just had your own hands and the skill set you possess right in the moment, you tend to agree with that, Jan? And I'm not trying to knock on the fact that there are brilliant marketing people that just kick our collective butts, but you can at least, it's a little bit like software testing. It's a good, there's a lower barrier to entry to do something and to call it testing, but to do development, you can't do, I don't know if I'm explaining myself. It's a matter of barrier to entry. There's a lower barrier to entry to start doing something and legitimately call it marketing than software product development.
I found about guys that are in CS, you're generally pretty bright. And so you have to, and you might be a little nerdy, but who cares? Thing is a selling engineer where you can not only stuff, but you can sit down with somebody and have a coherent conversation with them and why they should buy this stuff. And you're the kind of guy or girl that has the ability to go build a company. Female executives in our space here in Utah, and you women that are engineers, you got a pathway paved for if you just continue to be really good at what you do, you can do some amazing things. Because we're just looking for ways to get the women in this area just engaged in technology and doing things, and moving above and beyond just even being an engineer, but running businesses. There's a lot of great ones out there.
And we've got later in the semester, after we figure all of our tech problems out, we've got one of my former professors from Oregon State, who has done a lot of Margaret Burnett, who's done a ton of research in that space of kind of women in the context of computing, barriers that are that kind of exist in some respects. You know what I mean? Guy nerd things is the way I look at it. There's a lot of guy nerd stuff that's a barrier to anybody who's not a guy or not a nerd, and especially someone who's not a guy and a nerd. You know what I mean? So there's definitely, and let me just throw one other thing out at you, Jan, which is Steve Jobs used to have an attitude that he liked to hire poets and musicians and artists, and who also just happened to be really amazing developers and hardware engineers, right? And I'm a big believer in that. A lot of the aesthetics, a lot of the vision to look at something and go, that's a product. Somebody ought to solve that problem. That comes from more of the creative side. You know what I mean? And so stretching a little bit outside the nerd zone to see, to see people and customers and life and those experiences. And I think it's a real positive from a startup or entrepreneurship perspective. Otherwise, you wind up being you wind up being Richard Stallman, who creates a revolution, truly, and has a place in history. There's no question, but was still kind of like writing, nerds by nerds for nerds, as a product, namely the GNU software, the Free Software Foundation, and the GNU stuff, and
There's a lot of that just, and you'll find as you're out with, we've got such a great infrastructure now in Utah. It was one of the things that Ray Norda really wanted to have happen. Is in the early days you couldn't get money to come here, no VCs would come here, the banks didn't understand it, real estate, everything, nothing really was set up for high tech. And you guys are enjoying the benefits of all the great things that have happened over the years and the great successes. Because once you have multi-billion-dollar exits in the valley here, things just have changed. Well, and so you guys reap the benefit of that.
And don't you think, Jan, I was looking back, to our time back I joined Novell in '89. I worked indirectly for you. And then Novell was getting big, WordPerfect was getting big. And then you had like 2 billion. I remember just thinking in the early 90s, there are $2 billion companies in this valley. And then they both kind of, I don't know, I kind of feel like Novell exploded and WordPerfect imploded or something happened. But it kind of blew money and bodies all over the valley, the valley being Utah Valley, right? And as a byproduct, and then when I was getting ready for this thing, I was like, well, how many founders of billion-dollar companies do I personally know, like here in the valley, that I could, comfortably go have lunch with? And I started checking it off, and it was like a half a dozen, of just like founders of billion-dollar companies that I personally knew that would go grab lunch. And that's what's that been, 30 years? Yeah, about 30 years. That's a dramatic difference. And one other thing I wanted to interject, I did a presentation, and then you can kind of respond, Jan, however you want. I remember doing a presentation at Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame, and their big struggle they have a great CS program, but all their students, there's no tech industry in South Bend, Indiana. There hasn't been tech since the Studebaker, factory closed down, And so all those kids have to leave town for the summer to try to go do an internship somewhere. And when I was there and just meeting with the faculty and doing a colloquium and whatever, and I started talking about what we had on the Wasatch Front. I was at BYU at the time, right? But same thing here. It blew their minds. Like, wait, you're how close to how many billion-dollar companies? What percentage of your students by the time they graduate are working in the industry? It's around 100%. It blew their heads, and it's so unique that these kids, sorry guys, you're kids to me, but you know what I mean. So to me, the fact that when we were kind of in that early in our 20s, nothing like this existed. Then it kind of blew that bodies and money everywhere, and then all those kind of grew up over 30 years, and now there's just this incredible tech industry that all of these students just have an opportunity to take advantage of. It's massive. How do you respond to this, sir?
Yeah.
Can't hear you, Jan. No! Jan, I got no, man down.
Nope.
Wait, are you back? Are you there?
I'm speaking, but I don't think you can hear
No,
me.
I didn't hear it. We got you now, though.
now.
We got you now, though. Why don't you go back and repeat what you said after I handed it back to you?
So yeah, you go back, and the one thing I like to do is kind of think about the DNA of Novell and We're Perfect and where it all landed. Just like you said, it all blew apart, and everybody said, "Hey, well, if this isn't here, I'm going to go start something."
Right.
And it's just you'll get the Alan Ashton, Ray Norda touch in a lot of places, and now we have money coming in from a lot of VC firms have started here in the Valley. There's a lot of angels,
Yep.
and there's a lot of the big guys coming in now to the Valley, like Sequoia, Excel Partners. All these guys are coming in. Frontier Partners. They're all investing, and they love investing in Utah because there's been so many great successes. Doesn't mean they all work out, but there's a great number that work out, and that gets their attention. And people love to be in Utah. And that's the other great thing. I remember when we were going to school, everybody was leaving BYU and going outside of Utah. Everybody was.
Yeah.
You were going to HP, going to Silicon Valley, wherever you could.
Yeah, I went to HP.
And then I remember it started. And so, that's where I was headed. And then I got that job at Novell. I'm like, man, I'm going to stay right here. And it's just been amazing to watch it. So I think that's the opportunity you guys have, is to take advantage of everything that's been done so far. And there's so many places where you can plug in and do as much as you can to participate in the Silicon Slopes thing. It's a big community. And you may say, I don't know if I want to get connected in there. Well, there's a place where you can meet some cool people and start connecting and doing some things. Just your community around UVU, get plugged in and go rub shoulders with some of the marketing guys, and you'll run into the thing that's funny is you'll just run into people. I run into a $15 million company in Utah about every 3 weeks that I've never heard of.
Yeah, it's an amazing environment.
So take advantage of it, get plugged in, and then just use your skill and expertise to either join a company that's going, could be small, could be large, get in there, learn some stuff, and then on the side, try and find your opportunity that might even be better. You may just say, hey, I love working. I did 10 years at Novell, and then I did another 10 years at Altiris, and then I've done 10 at Sage Creek Partners. But I would never work at a huge company. Being able to move the needle. Your head in the water and you swim hard and you look up and move the boat. That's pretty awesome.
Hey, Jan, there was one question that, let me see, Denver had asked, which was
Questions or
Denver.
thoughts for anybody?
Oh, hang on, it's super choppy, Jan. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to drop the question on you. I'm not sure if you're still talking. We just can't hear you. But Denver asked a question on the chat. How do you distinguish between entrepreneurs whose success is imminent versus those who simply got lucky? And Denver, if you want to clarify that
Can you hear me
question
here?
at all. Yeah, I can hear you now, Jan.
I'll just tell you this: there's luck in every one of these things. If you think everybody's got everything figured out, and they do that, they are just lying through their teeth.
Yep.
Think about us working with Compact. If we didn't get the Compact deal, LT would have never happened.
Yep.
We're really, really small, and we would have struggled like crazy. And so there's a little serendipity there. We got Dell, we got all these other guys. Every little thing came along and worked out just to our advantage. Same thing with Key Labs. We just started in a space. We had no idea what the heck we were doing. We started building it. We didn't think we were going to make it the first year, and then it took off, and did some great things with it.
And then the reverse too, right, Jan? I mean, everything's rolling. You know you've got this path, and then some weird event, some weird negative serendipity, just your tire blows out on this inertia you had, you know, and all of a sudden you're all just sitting on the side of the road going, that could have been good, you know, and you knew what you were doing, but this weird unanticipated event, just you can't see it.
Yeah.
You don't know what's coming. Because it's
Throw stuff out there that's going to clean your clock once in a while.
Right.
You got to take it in stride, and you got to adjust, pivot, and do whatever you want to do. And here's the other problem with entrepreneurs: everybody thinks that Qualtrics was in business for 2 years and sold for $8 billion. They were in business for 17 years.
Yep.
$8 billion. And they worked their guts out, and they were up and down and around and problems. And every day in a business, you have problems to solve. Every day.
That's right.
It's come to work and everything's rosy. You got people coming, they want to mow your lawn, they want to kill you, they want to take your money, they want to take your market, and you got to respond to that. And it's every stinking day. It's going to be on a cruise ship and you're throwing flower petals over the side. You're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly right.
A lot of hard.
What about I like that you mentioned luck, Jan, and really, but it's not pure luck. It's not like, well, we were a bunch of doofs sitting around drinking beers and watching the Patriots, and then one day we got a phone call. You know, I mean, there's that, I don't know who made the statement that the harder I work, the luckier I seem to get. You know, and luck favors the prepared. Eric just dropped into the chat. You know, but there's a combination of being comfortable launching out into the unknown, you know, as we would talk about in the class, launching out into the space where you're a little ignorant, because that's where the unknown is going to meet the present. And then it's how do you respond in that moment? Can you even see it? You know, because there's no recipe.
So
there's no recipe, man.
Yeah.
And you know that.
Yeah, hustle, you're going to have opportunities, but you still got to have a little serendipity in my mind.
Yeah, it has to. Yeah,
You
that's
go,
right.
just go read Steve Jobs' biography. There was serendipity there, just guaranteed.
Yep. That's a great read, by the way, Walter Isaacson.
That's a great one.
Any other questions?
I got to interact with Steve Jobs a couple of times, which is pretty awesome.
What was your impression? Did he fire you in the elevator?
When he needs something from you, he was the nicest guy. I really need those network core protocols. When can you get those over to me? And you're just like, yes, sir, I will do this. You just turn into a mush. I'm just the coolest guy. Everybody's heard of Steve Jobs, and this before he was really big. This is like probably 89, 90, right in that range.
Yeah, there were a bunch of Novell. There were some interactions with Novell back then.
Yeah. Bill Gates, I've interacted with that dude. Fishing with that guy, I'm just telling you.
You went fishing with who?
I wouldn't want to go fishing with Bill Gates.
Oh, you wouldn't you would not want to go fishing with, who did you go fishing with?
I would fishing with anybody. I wouldn't go fishing with Bill Gates. I mean, he's just a weird dude. Weird dude.
Yeah. So what other questions you got? We got probably a few more minutes. We're officially over time, but we started a little late. What other, Jan doesn't need dinner. Devin asked, is it easier to get the company started or to keep it going and grow it? Ooh, that's a great question.
It's way easier to get it started.
Why?
Your company it's exciting. You don't see all the chop that's coming at you. The hardest part in any business is getting sales down. Building the technology is easy compared to getting somebody to buy it. And that's your biggest challenge, right? because nobody's interested in a company that doesn't generate revenue.
So you're just saying before your revenue, before anything else, you're like, hey, I started a company. But getting
Get
that
the thing up and up, you got to get the right people in place. You have to have some level of funding, however you're going to do it. And it's really fun because you're bright-eyed and you think you're going to conquer the world, and then a big 6-foot wave hits you right in the chops. And what are you going to do now? How
So-
are you going to respond to that?
Here, let me throw this at you, Jan. Book recommendations. You mentioned the Steve Jobs biography, which by Walter Isaacson, which I love. You mentioned Clayton Christensen, The Innovator's Dilemma, which I love. And I think it's incredibly. Clayton passed away not long ago, didn't he? Yes. Super sad. But anyway, yeah, books that you. And I'm dropping some of these links in here because I make these guys read a book of their own choosing, and these might be some recommendations as well for those that are interested on the business side. But any that jump out that you'd recommend? And I don't know if we lost you on audio again.
Yeah, great business book is good to great.
Agreed. Collins, right? Jim Collins. Good to Great would kind of reminded me of that when you mentioned one of Collins's key ideas is you've got to get the right people on the bus. You don't need to worry so much. This is what you said. Don't build to a product, and that companies don't invest in the product; they invest in the team, right? It has to do with getting the right people on the bus. And what Collins says, and I know it to be true, is then those guys figure out where the bus should go. You figure that part out. But if you don't have the right people on the bus, it doesn't much matter. You know, you could have the golden
Here's a
business
great
plan of the
analogy,
ages, right?
remember.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here's the analogy: get the right people on the bus, or get them in the right seats on the bus, or get them. Those are the three.
Or get off. What's the third one? Get off.
Yeah, get them off the bus.
Get them off the bus, right?
Get them in the right seat, or get them off.
Yeah. Agreed. Any other book?
Another little thing I learned is called the bozo factor. This
Okay.
happens in a lot of companies. You have one bozo, and they'll hire 10 more bozos, and all of a sudden you have a company full of bozos.
It's a bozo overload.
So make sure you're really careful that you don't get it. The bozo factor doesn't get you as a company.
I like that a lot. Any other books that you would recommend?
One, let me see if I can see it here real quick. This is by Andreessen Horowitz. It's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
I don't know it.
It's awesome. The hard things about starting businesses and all the garbage you go through, and when it works and when it doesn't, what do you do when it doesn't? And
Nice.
it's probably as good a business book as I've read.
Nice.
About hard things.
I'm dropping all these links on the chat for everybody. But I don't know that one. I've read all the other ones. I'm not even familiar with this one. So I really appreciate the pointer on that.
Like it's really good. It's a war story kind of book where they tell about all these things that happened, and they kind of comment on kind of looking back. Here's how we saw it and what we dealt with, and it's pretty good. That's a good one.
Nice. Let me see. Any parting thoughts? We're running late enough. We got to probably wrap up. But any parting shots, Jan, that you want to make, or any last, like, is anybody got a question that's just eating them that they gotta ask before we cut loose? And I can always, like, we can swap Marco Polos or something, and I can lob some some questions at you if they have others.
Anything that's left over, just send it over.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, actually, so Denver asked a great question, and I think it's not a bad maybe wrap-up kind of topic, which is how do you stay grounded? After you've founded a $1 billion company, how do you stay grounded? Or just in the middle of that success, right?
Well, I've got a couple of philosophies about that. One of them is money is a multiplier. If you're a really bad person, it'll make you a really, really bad person. If you're pretty decent soul, if you're a pretty decent soul, you'll even be better. But it just multiplies who you are. It doesn't change really who you are. And I think that's a good thing to remember. And it's not everything either. There's a lot of really great things that you'll do in your career. And you guys are going to make good money. I mean, just salary wise, you're going to do great.
That's right. Yeah.
Some of you will have some changing experiences where you have some equity in a company and it goes to the moon, and all of a sudden millions of dollars get dropped on your head. And that's the part where you just got to be a little careful and don't change who you are. And the other philosophy I have is try to shovel it out the back door and bless the lives of other people as is blessing your life. And if you're back around to you all the time.
That's a little karma, right, Jan? A little karma,
again,
kind of.
It's not going to happen to everybody. All you guys are going to do well in life, financially. So anyway, just kind of parting thoughts, guys. I would just, people that are kind of cut out to be entrepreneurs, others are more, hey, I want to get in a company and do some great things. You may develop some really cool technology, even some life-changing, world-changing technology. And that's fine. Not everybody has to be an entrepreneur. And even in those situations, you can make a lot of money, salary-wise and equity-wise. But I will tell you, if you really want to have a life-changing experience, make sure wherever you go, you try to get some equity, get some stock in the company, so that you're rewarded not only with your salary, but longer haul, you own stock in the business. And that's pretty common out there anymore, especially with really good technology guys. And if you start your own company, you're going to own a big chunk, and then just be really careful about what you do with your ownership. Don't just give it away like crazy, because it's going to be worth a lot of money someday. Maybe worth a pig and a poke, but it could be worth a lot of money. So be careful what you do.
Could just be a pound of bacon when it's over.
Enjoy the ride. I mean, you're going to see some amazing things in technology. I mean, you look at what we've experienced in 30 years. Just amazing.
I know.
Amazing stuff. Who thought we'd be doing phone calls over a little tiny device and having basically a computer in a pocket? Nobody saw that coming.
Right.
And so you're going to see, I don't know what's next, but there's some more stuff coming. There's no question about it. So enjoy the ride and do your best to help the world be a little better. And good things will come to you.
That's awesome, man. Should we let's just end on that? And then again, if you guys have any other questions, either DM me on Discord or just drop them into the chat, and I could just fire those over. And Jen, I don't know if you got Polo or something. You know, we could just do a little like supplemental video, and I can just drop it on these guys via Discord. And you know what I mean? If there's just any other wisdom, you know. I apologize to everybody for the state of the internet, apparently, and other things that have been a little bit of a challenge. But we got some of the thank yous rolling in the chat right now, Jan. But I always love. I mean, so Jan and I have known each other for 30 plus years, and I enjoy just hearing Jan talk about those experiences and share the wisdom. And even though we're about the same age, you know, love to hear you talk, Jan, and share those experiences. For these guys, it's incredibly valuable, and they get sick of me, so it's good for them to see somebody else with white hair that they should believe.
Yeah, that could happen.
That's right.
Yeah, anyway, great to be with you guys, and Chuck, as always, anytime, anything I can do to help you. And
yeah, man.
Trying to do there with these great kids.
Love it. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to cut you loose then, Jan. Thanks, man. Okay, so everybody left in the class.